No one saw the Empire coming. Not really. For decades, Earth had watched the stars with childlike wonder, dreaming of alien life, peaceful exchanges, maybe even distant friendships. But when the skies lit up in a blanket of cold silver light, those dreams shattered like glass under a boot. The Empire didn't invade with armies. Not at first. They arrived with messages of unity and peace. They called themselves the Olyari Dominion, descendants of 1,000 ancient star systems who had brought order to chaos. Their ships hovered above cities in silence. Their language was downloaded into global networks overnight, and their emissaries arrived dressed in shimmering armor that never seemed to touch the ground. Humanity watched, hesitant, as leaders bowed. President Monroe was one of the first. "This is a chance for Earth to join something greater," he said during a global broadcast. "We are not alone. We are not insignificant." The Empire's High Prefect stood beside him, smiling, his black eyes expressionless. At first, things changed slowly. New technologies were introduced: free energy grids, gravity-defying transport, cures for diseases that had plagued humans for centuries. Poverty dipped, crime fell, people cheered. Earth was being lifted into a new age. But the cost came soon after. Voices started vanishing: journalists, dissidents, scientists who asked too many questions. Then came the changes to law, harmless things, they said. Quiet restrictions on speech, bans on ancient Earth texts labeled subversive. Cultural centers closed, education replaced with Dominion doctrine. Soldiers in white armor patrolled streets, calling it protection, though no one could remember from what. Rebellion was impossible. The Empire had seen it all before. They had snuffed out uprisings on desert moons, frozen rebellions on ice-covered planets. Earth was just another acquisition. But Earth wasn't like the others. In a crumbling suburb of Nairobi, in the ruins of a factory left to rot after the Empire installed its synthetic food dispensers, a woman named Naya Obote knelt beside her brother's grave. He had disappeared 2 weeks before, taken by the compliance enforcers for teaching banned literature in an underground school. Now he was gone. Officially, he had resisted education reform. Unofficially, no one knew where they put the bodies. Naya's face, once soft and full of dreams, hardened. "This is not our sky," she whispered. "This is not our home anymore." In Detroit, a former soldier named Marcus Dale watched drones sweep through his old neighborhood, searching for non-cooperative behavior. He'd fought in Earth's last human war, before the Empire's arrival. Back then, he thought he was fighting for freedom. Now he realized freedom had just taken a different kind of chain. In Beijing, a disillusioned scientist, Zhao Ming, began decoding the energy grid's core structure. The Empire's gift, it turned out, was a leash. The technology could be used to shut down whole cities, punish resistance with darkness and cold. It was already happening in parts of South America where protests had flared. Zhao went underground. Across the world, others stirred. A whisper in the dark. A movement not born of governments or militaries, but of people. Farmers, coders, ex-cons, teenagers, old veterans. They called themselves the Terra Pact. It began with a hacked transmission, short and sharp, blasted into every Dominion channel. Earth declares the Galactic Empire has no place in Terran skies. The Empire laughed. At first, but within days, Dominion structures began to fall. A comms relay in Mumbai exploded. A landing base in rural Texas was wiped clean by a stolen pulse weapon. The Empire retaliated, hard and fast, burning entire districts, calling it containment. Still, the fires didn't stop the message. It spread like a plague they couldn't cure. Nia, Marcus, and Zhao became leaders not by title, but by sacrifice. Their names were whispered in alleys, carved into walls, echoed in prison cells. Their stories traveled across networks, smuggled through broken satellites and repurposed devices. Humanity remembered what it had forgotten. It had survived plagues, slavery, genocides, world wars, extinction events. It had been buried in ash and risen. It had torn itself apart and learned to rebuild. And no matter how advanced the Empire was, Earth had something they would never understand: defiance. And now it had a declaration. The first Dominion officer to die on Earth wasn't brought down by a weapon. He was suffocated, slowly, methodically, with nothing but a plastic bag and the calloused hands of an angry grandfather who'd watched his grandson disappear for attending a history circle in a basement in Johannesburg. No flashy battles, no media spectacle. Just quiet rage in a world that was beginning to boil. The Dominion didn't broadcast that death. They couldn't afford the optics. But the Resistance did. A grainy video showed the officer's lifeless eyes and a message beneath: "We are not your colony. This planet remembers how to bleed." Every screen across Earth was hacked within hours. For the first time since the Empire's arrival, their perfect silence cracked. High Prefect Solon, who had ruled over Earth's integration with cold precision, stood before the press in Geneva. His voice, always too calm, slithered through the translation feed. "There will be order," he declared. "Terra has been given gifts it never earned. If it does not wish to belong to something greater, it will be corrected." But humanity wasn't listening anymore. Naya Obote was deep underground by then, literally. Beneath Nairobi, she and a ragtag group of hackers, teachers, former engineers, and medics occupied the abandoned subway tunnels the Empire had declared obsolete. She held her brother's tattered notebook in one hand and a stolen Dominion data shard in the other. "They control the satellites," one of the engineers, an ex-NASA dropout named Len, told her, pointing at a mess of wiring. "But this taps their signal and bounces it through Mars's old relay. It'll take 6 minutes to upload. After that, they won't know what hit them." "What's on the shard?" Nia asked. Len grinned. "Proof. That Earth was never meant to be integrated. We're a test." "A test? They're not uplifting us. They're conditioning us. Their scholars think humans are too unpredictable, too emotional. They want to see if fear breaks us or mutates us." Nia stared at the shard. "Then let's show them what mutation looks like." The shard went live at dawn. Everything went wrong for the Empire that day. In Moscow, entire platoons of Dominion enforcers found their weapons non-responsive. In Lagos, the energy grid rerouted itself and blacked out every Imperial structure for 70 miles. A spaceport in Chile exploded from within, not from bombs, but from the sudden, overwhelming heat of its own overclocked reactors. And through it all, one message looped across every Dominion channel in a human voice: "We are not predictable. We are not tame. We are not yours." Marcus Dale watched the chaos unfold from an old bar in Detroit that now served as a resistance hub. The place still smelled like stale beer and piss, but the people inside had eyes that burned like never before. "The shard worked," someone shouted. Marcus only nodded. He didn't care about the tech. He cared about the fear he saw in Dominion eyes. For once they looked human, vulnerable. "They'll retaliate," he muttered. "They always do," said a voice beside him. It was Liara, a former Dominion tech who had defected after watching Earth's history tapes in secret. "But you've woken something they don't understand." "What's that?" Liara looked him dead in the eye. "Hope. It's irrational, unstable, contagious." Marcus laughed bitterly. "And dangerous." The retaliation came in less than a week. The Dominion called it sanitization. Entire neighborhoods vaporized from orbit. They didn't even pretend to be surgical. Slums, schools, hospitals, entire cities dimmed like candles in the wind. But Earth didn't cower. It roared. In the ashes of Cape Town, children painted resistance symbols on the walls with crushed berry juice. In Tokyo, a retired violinist stood in the street and played Beethoven's Ninth as drones descended around him. He didn't flinch when they shot him. The people around him recorded every second. Zhao Ming, hidden deep in a bunker outside Shanghai, watched the stream through cracked screens. He hadn't slept in days. His hands shook, not from fear but from coding fatigue. He was building something the Empire would consider a war crime, a logic virus. "You sure this'll work?" asked an assistant, barely 20, eyes wide. Zhao smiled. "It's not supposed to work. It's supposed to scare the hell out of them." He uploaded the virus into a Dominion archive hub. Within hours, Empire systems began translating their own orders incorrectly. Weapons targeted the wrong coordinates. Drones refused to obey commands. Shipboard AI looped on Earth's old movies, classics like Die Hard and V for Vendetta. The logic virus wasn't fatal. It was symbolic, psychological. "You've created a ghost," said Nia when Zhao shared the news with the global resistance net. "A digital rebellion," Zhao replied with tired pride. "They wanted us to be programmable. Instead, we infected their perfection with chaos." Across Earth, the Dominion's grip loosened. Not entirely, but enough. People began rising in places where silence had ruled for years. A farmer in New Zealand knocked a Dominion officer unconscious with a shovel and hit a family in his barn. A taxi driver in Cairo turned his cab into a mobile comms unit, patching rebel messages through blocked channels. A 10-year-old girl in Berlin hacked a surveillance drone with a toy tablet and crashed it into the local garrison's armory. They called it the Terran Spark. The Dominion tried to adapt. They shut down major hubs. They cut off food deliveries to non-compliant zones. They launched orbital strikes with less and less hesitation. But the more they punished Earth, the more Earth united. For the first time in human history, language barriers faded under necessity. African warlords shared tech with European hackers. South American villagers coordinated strikes with Canadian coders. Muslim clerics, Buddhist monks, and Christian preachers all knelt together and prayed for the same thing: freedom. And then came the moment that changed everything. Above the Pacific, a Dominion dreadnought named Vigilance Eternal moved into low orbit. It was the largest warship Earth had ever seen, over 5 kilometers long, bristling with weapons that could melt continents. Its arrival was meant to end the rebellion in one show of power. Instead, it disappeared. No explosion, no debris, just gone. The Dominion screamed sabotage. Earth claimed nothing, but Zhao Ming knew the truth. He had helped Naya design a trap. An old Terran orbital telescope disguised as junk, rigged with stolen Dominion code, reprogrammed to mirror a wormhole signature. When the Vigilance Eternal came close enough, it activated. And the dreadnought folded space into itself. Some say it reappeared near a black hole, screaming its systems apart. Others say it simply ceased to exist. What mattered was the message it left behind. We are Earth. We adapt. We endure. We bite back. Solon didn't give any more speeches after that. He vanished from public view. Dominion propaganda faltered. The resistance knew victory wasn't here yet. Not even close. But they had something better. They had momentum. Inside an abandoned cathedral in Prague, Naya Obote stood before a crowd of hundreds. Her voice, once small and unsure, carried like thunder through the cold stone. "They came to teach us obedience," she said. "They brought fire, but we remembered how to burn brighter. We are not subjects. We are not servants. We are Terrans. The crowd erupted, and above them, on every hacked screen, across every Dominion ship still hanging in Earth's sky, the words reappeared. Earth declares, the Galactic Empire has no place in Terran skies. It wasn't just a message anymore. It was a war cry, and the war was far from over. Smoke still rose over the ruins of São Paulo when the Empire's newest decree came through. Every screen, every speaker, every implant buzzed with the same cold command. Total pacification. No negotiation. Earth will kneel or burn. For a species raised on the brink of its own self-destruction, the phrase didn't hit the way the Dominion hoped. Humanity didn't kneel. It braced. In a converted mining colony beneath Iceland's basalt crust, Marcus Dale stood before the last piece of functioning Dominion armor Earth had captured. It was incomplete, its core ripped out by plasma fire, but its outer shell still gleamed with arrogant perfection. This, Marcus said to the roomful of resistance engineers, is what they fear we'll never understand. He slapped the chest plate. They think we need armor. What we need is purpose. The engineers nodded, not because they understood, but because Marcus had become a symbol. A blunt weapon Earth could swing at its invaders. He didn't care about titles. He didn't want glory. He just wanted the skies clean. Liara sat cross-legged nearby, eyes flicking between data streams. Her fingers danced over a cracked console salvaged from an old Russian satellite. They're shifting fleet positions, she said. 6 new cruisers moved over Africa. Dominion Command's expecting a major offensive there. They don't realize it's a decoy. Marcus smiled. Zhao's plan working? Liara smirked. He rerouted their surveillance through old Earth entertainment feeds. They're watching Game of Thrones reruns thinking it's our strategic doctrine. Marcus chuckled, then turned serious. They think betrayal is our language. It kind of is, Liara said with a shrug. But it's not the only one. Across the Atlantic, Naya Obote sat inside what was once the United Nations Assembly Hall. The great dome overhead bore a new symbol now, the Terran spark, half gear, half flame, wrapped in the outline of Earth. The Resistance Council was assembling. Not a government, never that. Just a loose federation of resistance cells working together under a unified code. We're being bled dry, said Maria Alvarez, leader of the Andes Front. We're sabotaging, striking, fighting, but every blow we land costs us 10 lives. Nia didn't argue. She knew it was true. They're preparing something, Zhao said from the hollow table, his face hollow and pixelated. A final strike. Maybe on a city, maybe on all of them. Orbital kinetic weapon? Asked a voice. Zhao nodded. That or worse, I intercepted partial transmission. They call it the Fury Protocol. It's not in any of their standard doctrine. What's the target? Nia asked. A pause. Then Zhao's voice fell to a whisper. Every major Terran biosphere. Total collapse. If they can't rule us, they'll erase us. The room went silent. For a moment, everyone in that chamber stared at each other, not as leaders, not as revolutionaries, but as people, as parents, as siblings, as children of a planet teetering on the edge of extinction. They want us afraid, Nia finally said. They want panic, desperation. They want us to fracture. She stood, walked to the edge of the room, and placed her hand on the cracked wall where the names of fallen cities had been etched in burned metal. Paris, Lagos, Mumbai, Atlanta. But they forget who they're dealing with. We are not just humans. We are Earth, and this planet doesn't die quietly. It was then that the final phase of the Terran counteroffensive took shape. Operation Iron Pulse. While Dominion attention remained fixed on Africa and Asia, the Resistance built something in Antarctica, a place so inhospitable the Empire barely patrolled it. hidden within an old research facility beneath 400 feet of ice. Human scientists, former military tacticians, AI programmers, and even defected Dominion minds worked side by side. Their weapon wasn't a bomb. It was a message. A virus. Not digital this time, but memetic. A psychic payload encoded into Dominion language, music, even their holographic structures. Zhao had found the key in one of their ruined databanks, a resonance frequency that induced emotional chaos in Dominion minds. Guilt, regret, empathy, emotions they had long suppressed. It's not about hurting them, Zhao explained to the core team. It's about making them feel. And if it backfires? Someone asked. Zhao looked up, eyes bloodshot. Then they kill us anyway. At least we tried something more human than fire. The weapon, dubbed Echofall, needed a delivery system. Something high altitude, fast, and able to blanket Dominion ships in all hemispheres. Marcus had an idea. We still got any of those old ionosphere balloons from the 2050 climate programs? 2 weeks later, the skies above Earth bloomed with artificial stars. Dominion sensors didn't register them as threats. Just old Terran debris drifting high. At midnight, synchronized across the globe, the balloons burst. Not with fire, but with light. Patterns, frequencies, images, sounds, a choir of 1,000 cultures. The laughter of children, the scream of a mother in grief. A heartbeat synced across hemispheres, and one phrase repeated in every known tongue. We are alive, and you are not gods. The Dominion reacted like wounded animals. Ships spiraled, pilots collapsed, weeping or screaming, many simply ejecting and vanishing into the void. Some fired at each other, others broke formation, a few landed and surrendered. But the rest, those too deep into control, too far gone to remember feeling, they responded with fire. New York City burned for the 3rd time in a century. The Amazon rainforest became a war zone. Low-orbit shuttles dropped plasma over the ruins of Paris. The Dominion lashed out like a dying tyrant. But something had shifted. For every act of destruction, 100 humans rose. In the streets of Dhaka, resistance fighters pulled down a Dominion tower using steel cables and pure rage. In Buenos Aires, a former street musician hijacked a Dominion broadcast and sang an old Earth lullaby that made half a fleet hesitate. In California, a blind woman walked through a battlefield with a white flag soaked in her son's blood. The Dominion soldiers didn't shoot. They dropped their weapons and knelt. Hope, terrifying, reckless, irrational, had become viral. Nia Obote stood at the edge of the old UN building, staring into the war-torn sky. They'll either leave, said Marcus beside her, covered in soot and blood, or they'll destroy everything. Nia nodded. Then we fight until the last breath, and after that we make sure our story survives. You think this planet's worth it? He asked, half joking. Nia didn't smile. She didn't need to. I think this planet's alive. I think it remembers. And I think it's finally waking up. A shadow moved above them. One of the last Dominion cruisers descending for what it thought would be a final strike. Nia looked at the approaching doom, then at Marcus, and said the words that would one day be carved into every monument on Earth. Tell them when they write their history books, Earth didn't beg. Earth bit back, the sky screamed, the people rose, and the war for the soul of the planet entered its final phase. The cruiser didn't strike immediately. It hovered in the haze, a shadow over a city that had already bled too much. The once proud skyline of Geneva lay like a ribcage beneath its mass. Buildings fractured, monuments toppled, the river choked with ash and debris. And still, the Dominion ship waited. Nia Obote stood motionless atop the charred roof of a collapsed metro station, her coat billowing in the ashen wind. She watched the beast above her, as if daring it to blink. "It's scanning," said Liara, peering through a cracked tactical lens. "Looking for command signals. Leadership. They're hunting you." "Let them," Naya said. Her voice didn't shake. It hadn't in weeks. Not since the first time she watched a Dominion soldier sob into his own helmet after Echofall scrambled his emotionless mind. This wasn't about survival anymore. This was a reckoning. Marcus Dale was already moving. He dropped into the metro ruins with 3 operatives, armed with modified EMP rounds and magnetic spikes. Their job wasn't to shoot. Their job was to anchor the Resistance's final card. Echofall had worked too well. The Dominion was unraveling at the edges. Patrols had thinned. Orders were contradicting themselves. Some ships had gone completely dark, drifting like abandoned tombs in orbit. But the core command, the ruling caste, still intact, still calculating, and now desperate. "We've got one chance," Zhao said over the comms, voice tight. "I've reconfigured the payload. Instead of a global burst, this one hits just one target." "The cruiser," Liara said, already typing. "Localized infection. You'll fry its hierarchy." Zhao's voice darkened. "Number, I'll give them humanity. All of it, unfiltered. Grief, joy, love, betrayal, hope, compressed into one stream." Nia blinked. "You're going to make them feel everything?" Zhao whispered. "And either they'll break, or they'll become us." Below ground, the metro was a maze of half-collapsed tunnels and glowing data cables snaking through concrete like veins. Dominion infrastructure had tried to make it efficient. Human sabotage had made it personal. Marcus moved silently through the darkness, his team behind him. 2 women, Faye and Kamari, each ex-military, both carrying makeshift scramblers rigged from old smartphone chips. The 4th was a mute teen named Juno, who understood machines better than anyone and didn't speak a word. They reached the payload, a cylinder of polished black metal humming softly with dormant energy. The final burst of Echofall. "Can we hit the cruiser from here?" Marcus asked. Juno nodded and pointed upward, drawing a gesture in the air. A mirrored relay, hidden inside one of Geneva's shattered observatories. The old telescope had been replaced with a Dominion signal dish. They just need a line-of-sight connection and 30 seconds of unbroken transmission. "Piece of cake," Marcus muttered. He didn't believe it. None of them did. Up top, the air changed. The Dominion cruiser was charging something. Its underbelly glowed like a slow heart, veins of pale light pulsing toward its tip. "They're going to erase the city," Liara said, breath hitching. "It's not about us anymore. It's punishment." "Then we make it count," Nia said. She turned to the crowd behind her, the last defenders of Geneva. Civilians, mostly. Mechanics, students, a few retired soldiers. All wearing scraps of resistance colors. All ready to die. Nia raised her voice, raw but steady. "They think they're gods, that if they burn us, they win. That fear is loyalty." She pointed at the sky. "But that thing up there, it's just a machine. And we're not afraid of machines anymore." The people shouted back, not a cheer, but a roar, a defiance that crackled in the air like static. Marcus signaled from below. "We're ready." Zhao's voice came through the network. "When I launch this, if it works, the cruiser's crew will lose their minds, and their control. That means we'll have 30, maybe 60 seconds before it either crashes or retaliates." "Understood," Nia said. "Do it." Zhao hesitated. "You ever wonder what will become after this?" Nia's eyes stayed fixed on the hovering ship. "Free." Then the payload fired. It wasn't loud, no flash, no explosion, just a wave, a ripple of light from the observatory dish to the cruiser's belly, a silent pulse that passed through solid steel like mist. For 5 seconds, nothing happened. Then came the screaming. The cruiser's comms opened, unintentionally. The world heard them. Dozens of voices, once mechanical and calm, now howling, in grief, in terror, in awe, in shame. They weren't just hearing Earth's pain, they were feeling it. A captain wept over a lover lost 200 years before. A pilot shrieked for forgiveness from a planet he had bombed. A systems engineer sang lullabies from Earth languages no longer spoken, as if possessed by 1,000 ghosts. On the ground, the resistance stood frozen. On the ship, lights flickered, weapons shut down. The glow faded. For a moment, the sky held its breath. Then the cruiser began to fall. Not a crash, a descent, controlled. It landed in the heart of Geneva, leveling what was left of the financial district. Steel screamed against concrete, fires burst, but no shots fired. The side of the cruiser opened, and the Dominion soldiers stepped out, without helmets, without weapons. Some dropped to their knees. Some held out empty hands. Some simply looked up at the sky, crying. The resistance didn't shoot. Not immediately. Nia moved first. She stepped towards the soldiers, her steps slow but sure, until she stood face to face with one of them. He looked like any human now. No armor, just skin, and eyes red with tears. "I don't know who I am anymore," he said. Nia looked at him, steady. "Welcome to Earth." It wasn't a victory, not yet. Elsewhere, Dominion Command still plotted, fleets still circled, cities still burned. But this moment in Geneva was a fracture, a split in the Empire's image of control, a seed of rebellion, not just in Earth's soil, but in the Dominion's soul. Word spread fast. Other ships hesitated. Some left orbit. A few surrendered outright. Others fired in rage, in fear. Cape Town was hit. So was Bangkok. But the attacks weren't organized. They were spasms. Earth had made the gods bleed. Back at the metro site, Marcus watched the cruiser settle like a fallen colossus. Juno stood beside him, silent, eyes wide with disbelief. Faye whispered, "We actually did it." Marcus didn't respond. He just knelt and touched the dirt. It was warm, alive. Later that night, as fires cooled and the stars blinked back into the sky, Nia sat with Zhao over a cracked transmission. "You built something terrible," she said. "I built something human," Zhao replied. Liara joined them, dropping a salvaged Dominion device on the table. "This tech? We can adapt it, use it, not just to fight, but to build." Nia nodded. "Then let's start planning. They'll come back." Marcus's voice crackled through the speaker. "Let them. Earth's not scared of stars anymore." Nia smiled faintly. But maybe the stars are scared of us." They looked up, all three of them, at a sky that was no longer foreign, no longer silent. The war wasn't over, but for the first time, it felt like Earth was winning. Silence never used to be terrifying. In the early days of the Dominion's occupation, silence meant compliance, order, the calm of a defeated people too broken to speak. But now, silence had taken on a new meaning, for both sides. For Earth, it was the breath before the next strike. For the Dominion, it was the horror of losing control. From the upper reaches of Earth's orbit, the Dominion command ship Vox Aeternum floated like a blade above the atmosphere, its hull dark, weapons charged but idle. Inside, chaos churned behind closed doors. Admiral Rilex Karn paced in front of his command console, fists clenched behind his back, jaw twitching. He had served the Empire for nearly 3 centuries. He had brought 65 planets into the fold, crushed rebellions before they even began. He'd thought Earth would be no different. He was wrong. His second-in-command, a logic-born tactician named Sen Tal, hovered beside him, reading streams of data through an ocular implant. "The cruiser that fell over Geneva has not re-established contact. Emotional dissonance is spreading among the remaining Terran fleet detachment. Karn snarled, I don't need a diagnosis, I need a cure. There is no protocol for this, Sen said. They infected our crew with something irrational, uncontrollable. Karn turned sharply. Hope? Sen's face twisted in something close to disgust. Empathy. Karn stared at the projection of Earth below, a blue marble wrapped in green scars and dark oceans, a backwater world that should have folded like all the others. Instead, they made his best ships weep. How many fleets remain? Karn asked. 3, Sen answered. 1 in lunar orbit, 2 still positioned at the Mars staging ground. And the others? Defecting, or neutral. Some are simply non-responsive. Karn turned away from the display. Begin the purge. Admiral? Send the purge code. Strip emotion, strip memory, reset every unit that has hesitated. I want obedience, not mourning. Sen blinked. The purge hasn't been used in over 100 years. Many of those units will collapse permanently. Then let them. Better a dead machine than a rebel. And so, with a single command, Karn executed the Dominion's final protocol. Down on Earth, it began with screams. In Nairobi, a surrendered Dominion soldier clutched his head and fell, convulsing. In Manila, a mechanic who had defected days before dropped dead mid-conversation. In Geneva, 3 soldiers who had just planted seeds in the shattered city square began speaking in reverse before collapsing, blood leaking from their eyes. They're erasing them, Nia shouted, standing over the body of a young Dominion tech whose last words had been, I wanted to understand you. Zhao's face flashed on a nearby screen. Purge protocol. They're trying to sterilize the infection. Make it look like loyalty was a glitch. Liara was already typing. We can intercept the signal, bounce it, fracture it. If we jam the pulse, some might survive. Some? Nia demanded. I'm not a god, Liara snapped. I'm one woman with half a satellite and a lot of stolen code. Then that's enough, Nia said. Do it. The world's surviving resistance networks surged into action. Engineers, coders, and satellite techs linked every remaining orbital platform to a single goal. Block the purge. They called it the Echo Net. While the Dominion sent its death song into the brains of its soldiers, Earth sang louder. Old Earth songs, in every language. Signals laced with harmonics that disrupted the purge frequency. Entire radio towers were reactivated just to scream the sound of oceans, of rainstorms, of laughter. It wasn't perfect. Hundreds still died, but thousands blinked, gasped, and lived. In Detroit, a captured Dominion pilot named Relia woke mid-purge, crying. She dropped to her knees in front of Marcus Dale and whispered, They tried to take my guilt. But Earth gave it back. Marcus didn't know what to say. So he gave her water, a blanket, a name. You're not a tool, he said. You're Terran now. Far above, Admiral Karn watched his fleet fragment. Some ships shut down completely, others fired on each other, and 2 turned their weapons toward the Vox Aeternum. Karn screamed, slamming his fists into the console. You will not break us! He triggered the failsafe. The Vox Aeternum lit up like a supernova, sending a burst of raw Dominion energy into the atmosphere. On Earth, power grids exploded, comms went dead, drones fell from the sky. Naya Obote stood on the edge of a cliff in the Alps, watching the sky burn. Snow melted beneath her boots. The fire in the clouds looked like blood veins in the heavens. Then, a single voice came through the static. Zhao. Barely alive, weak but defiant. I found him, he said. Karn, he's still on the command ship. What good does that do us? Liara asked. We can send a boarding party. Marcus coughed through smoke on the other line. We don't have a fleet. Zhao's voice cracked. But we have a ship. The Dominion cruiser that had landed in Geneva had been repaired. Barely. The defected soldiers, those who survived the purge, volunteered to fly it. Relia led them. "I was born to destroy worlds," she said. "Now I'll take you to the monster that gave that order." And so Earth launched its first counteroffensive into space, not with generals, not with an army, but with rebels, hackers, refugees, poets, and farmers, with humanity. They called the mission Operation Ashfall. From the icy floor of Geneva, the repaired cruiser launched, engines roaring with stolen Dominion fire. It broke the atmosphere like a knife, shedding flame and storm. Karn saw it coming. He laughed. "Let them come," he told Sen. "I will welcome them with death." But Sen was no longer listening. The Logic-born had rewritten his own core script. He turned to Karn with human eyes and said, "You are not a god. You are just a frightened tyrant in a crumbling palace." Karn reached for his weapon. Sen moved first. One shot. Center mass. Karn fell. The Vox Aeternum fell silent. When the Earth ship breached its hull, they found the Admiral already dead. But what they found deeper inside changed everything. A Dominion data vault. Old. Encrypted. Cracked open by Zhao's remote sequence. Inside it. Proof. Earth wasn't the only world that had rebelled. Others had tried and failed. But Earth had succeeded. Not by being stronger, but by being human. They uploaded the files into every open network. The truth spread faster than any purge. All over the galaxy, Dominion-controlled worlds blinked, paused, and began to rise. Back on Earth, Naya stood in the ruins of the UN, eyes fixed on a sky that no longer seemed so distant. Liara came up beside her. "We've done it." Nia shook her head. "Number, we've started it." A revolution? A rebirth. And then, for the first time in living memory, Earth's skies were empty. No warships, no gods, just stars. The stars looked different now. It wasn't that they'd changed, but Earth had. For the first time in generations, humanity looked upward, not in fear, but in reflection. They weren't waiting for ships to appear, nor for death to rain down in fire. Instead, they watched with quiet pride. The war wasn't over. But the sky was finally theirs again. In the weeks following the fall of Vox Aeternum, something strange happened across Earth. The fighting slowed. Not because the enemy had surrendered entirely. Many Dominion ships still lingered in deep orbit or hidden bases on Earth's surface, but because their will had fractured. Without Karn, without command, they drifted like the remnants of a broken religion, clinging to rules no one believed in anymore. And Earth, ever defiant, had changed too. No more governments in the traditional sense. No flags waving from ash-covered poles. No polished podiums or smug politicians promising peace they couldn't deliver. Instead, the Terran Pact grew. A loose alliance of resistance leaders, scientists, civilian organizers, and even former Dominion defectors, all bound by one simple agreement. Earth belongs to Earth. In Nairobi, Naya Obote stood on a makeshift platform in the center of a market rebuilt from war rubble. Children laughed nearby, drawing chalk versions of Dominion ships getting kicked by stick-figure humans. Naya wasn't there to speak. She didn't like speeches. She was there to listen. "We need water rerouted from the southern channels," said a young woman from the Engineers Guild. "And we still haven't restored power beyond Sector 9. "We'll get it done," Naya said simply, making a note on a scorched tablet. "We've rebuilt from worse." She wasn't wrong. Cairo was rebuilding too, its skyline cracked but defiant, glass towers stitched back together with old-world tech and resistance grit. So was Bogota. So was Manila. So were hundreds of cities. But they weren't just rebuilding. They were transforming. Liara, now leading the Dominion tech repurposing effort, oversaw something unprecedented: the integration of human instinct with alien infrastructure. She called it symbiosis. "Don't rebuild what we had," she told the Terran Pact Council. "Reimagine everything, from transport to communication to how we power homes. Let this be the age of the hybrid." Her team took Dominion hover rails and converted them into city-wide ambulatory supply carriers. They rewired the old planetary surveillance satellites into free-access navigation systems. They built learning hubs in the ruins of military barracks, where children were taught history. Real history, not propaganda. Some were wary. "We're using their tools," said Marcus during one tense council session. "Tools made for domination. We can't trust them." Zhao, still weak from the strain of building and deploying Echofall, replied quietly, "Then let's use their tools the way they feared most, with compassion." Marcus didn't argue further, not because he agreed, but because he respected Zhao. He'd watched the man trade his health, his sanity, and nearly his life to give Earth a chance. The scars on his face told more truth than most speeches ever could. Despite progress, the shadows hadn't disappeared. Rumors of rogue Dominion enclaves hiding in Earth's remote regions grew louder. In the Siberian wastes, deep in the Amazon, in Antarctic ice caverns where Dominion relics still whispered. The Terran Pact launched reconnaissance missions. Some never returned. Others came back with warnings. "They're regrouping, not for Earth, for something else." Nia called an emergency summit in Geneva, now the Pact's central meeting zone, though still only half standing. "We need to understand what they're planning," she told the group, standing at the center of a circular table made from shipwrecked Dominion armor plating. "We've broken their grip," said Maria Alvarez from the Andes territories. "What's left can't threaten us." Zhao disagreed. "They don't need force to destroy us anymore. They only need fear." He dropped a data chip on the table. "Recovered from a Dominion relay in the Mariana Trench. It's not orders, it's a map." Liara picked it up, eyes narrowing. "This isn't Earth." "No," Zhao said. "It's what comes after." The chip showed a massive structure, orbital in nature, hovering near what Dominion records called the Hallowed Divide, a rift in the edge of explored space, cloaked in gravity wells and ancient silence. "They've been building it for decades," Zhao said. "A failsafe. If Earth won, they'd retreat, regroup, and start again somewhere else." Marcus leaned forward. "You're saying they're planning to move on? Just leave us?" "No," Zhao said darkly. "They're planning to erase the evidence of their failure." "You mean us?" Zhao nodded. "They won't attack Earth directly. They'll wipe its memory, corrupt star charts, obscure transmissions, reprogram whatever galactic archives they still control. In 50 years, Earth will be a myth. In 100, forgotten." The room fell silent. "That's genocide," someone whispered. Liara corrected them. "It's erasure." Naya stood slowly. "Then we don't let them run." Eyes turned to her. "We've been reactive, always, defending, rebuilding, but the Dominion? They're still playing offense. We have to go after them." "Into space?" Marcus asked. "With what ships? We've barely finished welding this one back together." Nia looked at Relia, who stood silently in a corner, still wearing remnants of Dominion armor. She had been quiet since Vox Aeternum. Changed. "We have ships," Naya said. "We just haven't asked the right people." Relia stepped forward. "I know the codes," she said. "I know where the Dominion keeps their reserves, their training fleets, their broken children." Marcus narrowed his eyes. "And you want to lead us to them?" Relia didn't blink. "Number, I want to lead them to you, And so the seeds of a new campaign were planted. Not a war for survival, but a hunt. Operation Afterlight. Not all Terrans supported it. Many said Earth needed peace, healing, a time to breathe. But Nia knew the truth. Peace without truth was fragile, and healing without justice was hollow. They couldn't kill every last Dominion loyalist, but they could stop them from hiding, from rewriting the past, from deleting the fire Earth had lit. Over the following month, 3 ships were built from scavenged wreckage, Dominion cores, and Terran craftsmanship. Each one bore the Terran spark on its hull. 1 ship for reconnaissance, 1 for defense, 1 for justice. Zhao named the flagship himself, Memory's Blade. "It cuts through lies," he said, "and leaves stories in its wake." Nia stood aboard its deck as the ship prepared for launch. She looked down at Earth one last time, scarred, patched together, but alive. Liara joined her. "You sure about this?" "No," Nia admitted. Liara smiled. "Good. That means you're doing it for the right reasons." Nia watched the stars. The same ones that once held monsters. Now, they held possibility. "The Dominion wanted to erase us," she said. "Let's make sure they never forget." Then Earth's first fleet, not of conquest but of remembrance, rose into the stars. The stars were colder out here, not in temperature, but in silence, deeper, heavier, as if the void itself was holding its breath. The closer the fleet moved toward the hallowed divide, the more Nia Obote could feel it, not just in her body but in her mind. The air felt thinner, the light felt sharper, and something ancient pressed against her thoughts like a whisper that never spoke aloud. Memory's blade cut through space with no resistance, flanked by the scout vessel Whisperwind and the armored cruiser Ash Meridian. 3 ships, hundreds of souls, 1 purpose, to end the Dominion's last lie. "Approaching boundary coordinates," said Zhao from his command seat near the ship's observation ring. "Sensors are confused. The readings fluctuate every 3 seconds. Artificial distortions, gravitational mirages." "They're hiding something," Nia murmured. Relia stood beside her, arms crossed, face unreadable. "That's not just tech, that's conditioning. They built this place to repel curiosity. It's instinctive. You get close and you want to turn around." "We're not built to obey instincts," Nia said. "Speak for yourself," Marcus muttered through the comm from Ash Meridian. "This place makes my skin crawl." The fleet advanced slowly, navigating dense patches of dark matter clouds. Lights flickered as the Dominion's cloaking field strained against their intrusion. Then, as if parting a curtain, the stars cleared. And there it was. Dominion Arc Facility. Anath 9. It was massive, easily 20 kilometers wide, constructed from obsidian alloy and suspended between 3 gravitational anchors that pulsed like artificial suns. No windows, no lights, just black silence. "Zhao," Nia said, leaning forward. "What are we looking at?" Zhao zoomed the image. "That's not a station, it's a consciousness hub. Half its mass is dedicated to storage." "For weapons?" "No," he said. "For history, memories, culture, language. It's their collective legacy." Relia's eyes widened. "They're going to erase it." "Not just erase it," Zhao said. "Rewrite it. Turn their defeat into a glitch. Reframe us as aggressors. Or worse, delete us entirely." Nia exhaled slowly. "Then we take the truth back." She issued the order. The ships moved into position, surrounding the Ark like wolves around an ancient beast. Defensive systems lit up on its outer shell. Long-forgotten turrets turning slowly, confused by Earth's hybrid signature. No Dominion fleet appeared to challenge them. But someone was still watching. Inside the facility, deep within its inner sanctum, an old Dominion warden known as Archivist Kylus watched the intruders arrive. His skin, pale like faded parchment, rippled with artificial veins of data. His eyes were silver implants that blinked independently. He'd served the Dominion since before most of the current officers had been born. Keeper of all truth, all history, all silence. And now he would cleanse it. "Begin final overwrite," he said to the AI around him. "Purge Earth. Seal its name under protocol null memory. Let the galaxy remember it only as failure." "Override request received," the AI responded. "Estimated time to full deletion, 42 minutes. Back on memory's blade, alarms blared. "They're initiating memory purge," Zhao confirmed. "We have less than an hour." Nia's eyes narrowed. "Relia, is there a way inside?" "Yes," Relia said, "but not through fire, through deception." "What do you mean?" "They designed Anath 9 to reject aggression. Any direct assault will trigger fail-safes. But if we enter through the legacy port, which is a diplomatic access node, from the era when they thought peace was possible." Nia smiled faintly. "Fitting." She, Relia, and a strike team of 6 boarded a stealth pod and launched. The ship zipped silently through the magnetic haze, bypassing outer defenses entirely. Dominion systems didn't flag it as hostile. It was too old, too forgotten. A relic entering a tomb. The pod docked. The doors hissed open. Darkness greeted them. No lights, no guards, no sound. Just the cold hum of machines dreaming. Relia took point, guiding them through long corridors lined with memory nodes. Glass canisters filled with mist and light, each one pulsing faintly. "This is their soul," she whispered. "Every decision, every lie, every confession." Nia felt it too. The air vibrated with thought, the kind of hum you feel in churches or ruins, reverence mixed with decay. "Zhao," she said into the comm, "we're in." "I'm linking with the node now," he responded from the blade. "If I sync my code with the primary AI, I can suspend the purge. Just tell us where to go." "Core chamber, 4th level down. Watch for neural feedback traps. And, Naya?" "Yes?" "If the AI tries to talk to you, don't believe anything it says." They advanced deeper. Each level they passed was more surreal. The walls shimmered, reflecting not just their images, but their thoughts. Marcus saw himself as a boy, covered in mud and laughter. Nea saw her brother. Relia saw herself in full Dominion regalia, standing atop a mountain of ash. "Psychic interference," Relia said. "It's feeding on our memories, trying to confuse us." "Keep moving." When they reached the core, they found Kalis waiting. He stood alone, no weapons, no armor, just long robes woven from memory threads, visible thoughts stitched into fabric. "You shouldn't be here," he said. "We are here," Nia replied. "You don't belong in history," he said, voice calm but absolute. "You were an anomaly, a failed rebellion, a fracture in the narrative. You must be deleted." "Funny," Marcus said, leveling his weapon. "You're the one standing in a museum." Kalis smiled. "You think this is about you? Earth? You are insects compared to the weight of our legacy." "No," Nia said. "We're mirrors. That's why you're afraid. We showed your soldiers what it means to feel, and they cracked." Kalis raised his hand. The chamber darkened. "You brought chaos." "We brought humanity." Zhao's voice cut through the noise. "Now!" Nia slammed the interface drive into the node. Kalis screamed, not in pain but in rage. "You cannot overwrite the truth." "We're not overwriting," Nia whispered. "We're restoring it." Across Anath 9, lights flared. The memory banks surged. The AI stuttered, glitching between commands. "Earth deleted. Earth verified. Earth anomaly. Earth origin." Relia stepped forward. "We were your mistake. Now we're your legacy." Kalis lunged, but it was too late. Zhao's override completed. The Dominion's true history, once hidden, now surged through the Ark like wildfire. Every atrocity, every rebellion, every truth they'd buried to maintain control. Earth wasn't a failure. It was the first success of something new. Kalis collapsed, his mind buckling under the weight of unfiltered memory. The chamber exploded with light. Back on memory's blade, Zhao leaned back, breathless. It's done. Across the galaxy, Dominion data networks flashed red, then rebooted. And in that moment, Earth wasn't forgotten. It was known. The stars sang. That's what Liara said when the memory flood went live, when the Dominion's core archives were breached, and Earth's truth spilled into 1,000 worlds like light cutting through a cathedral window. For decades, the Empire had rewritten, redacted, and silenced. But now, the silence was broken. Now the galaxy remembered. It didn't happen all at once. It rippled. On the desert moon of Yanar, a school once forced to teach Dominion obedience paused its morning lessons. Children watched grainy footage of Nia Obote standing before a ruined building, her face bruised but proud, declaring, "We are not your subjects. We are Earth." The headmaster wept openly. She'd hidden the same footage in a floorboard 20 years ago, terrified of being caught. On the ocean station of Vega 12, where Terran resistance was labeled myth, a former Dominion officer named Kale Tell stood on a balcony watching the skyline flicker. All around him, propaganda streams crashed and rebooted, replaced by Earth's message. Not hatred, not threats, just raw, unfiltered defiance. And a question. What makes you human? In orbit, from Mercury's hollowed colonies to Saturn's rings, dormant satellites lit up like fireflies waking from hibernation. Earth's old signal, its voice, came back, stronger and louder than it had ever been. We are still here. It took 3 days to return from Anath 9. On the bridge of Memory's blade, Nia Obote stared out at the stars, but her gaze was somewhere deeper, buried in memory. Relia stood beside her, shoulders slack for the first time in weeks. "It's done," she said softly. "No," Nia replied. "It's begun." Behind them, Zhao sat curled near a console, his legs wrapped in an old blanket. His breathing was shallow but steady. "I uploaded more than data," he said quietly. "I gave them emotion, memory, self-awareness. The AI... It's alive now." "You made it feel?" Nia asked. Number I made it remember what it felt once. Liara entered then, bruised and smiling. "Every outpost we've pinged shows the same response. The purge is dead. Dominion archives are collapsing under truth recursion. It'll take years to fully reprogram them." Marcus's voice cut in over the comm, dry and sharp. "Then we've got years' worth of cleanup to do." "Earth?" Nia asked. "Stable," Marcus replied. "Unity's shaky in places. Some want war, some want peace. But the skies are ours. No ships overhead for the first time in decades. Kids in Johannesburg are flying kites again." Nia chuckled softly. "That sounds like a good sign." And it was. But good signs didn't mean safety. In Geneva, the Terran Pact reconvened, this time in the open air, under a wide sky with no drones above and no fear in their hearts. Delegates gathered from every resistance territory, some wearing suits made from salvaged Dominion cloth, others wrapped in flags of the old Earth nations. There was no anthem, no speeches, just Naya, standing atop a block of ruined stone, holding up a cracked Dominion interface core. "This," she said, "is what they built to control us. A monument to silence." She held up a seed, a real one, taken from Earth's oldest surviving vault. "And this is what we plant instead." She placed the seed inside the cracked shell of the core. The crowd watched. That image, the seed inside the enemy's machine, would travel faster than any anthem, faster than any transmission. It became the new symbol of the resistance, not victory through violence, but survival through memory. But peace, like all things human, was imperfect. 3 weeks after Anath 9 fell, reports came in from Alpha Centauri. An experimental Dominion fleet, one never recorded in any known database, was on the move. Silent. Unmarked. Operating outside command protocols. They never trusted their own system, Liara explained. This was their ghost fleet, their fail-safe if everything went wrong. And what do they want? Marcus asked. To finish the purge, Zhao whispered. Not just of Earth, of everything Dominion. They're erasing themselves? Nia said, shocked. They can't face what they've become, so they'll wipe the board. Relia stood. Then we stop them. Zhao shook his head. We're not fast enough. Not with current ships. That's when Naya had the idea. What if we don't chase them? Everyone turned. We've always fought after they move. What if, just this once, we force them to see us first? She laid out the plan. Risky. Insane. Human. Use Dominion tech. Broadcast a neural wave back through the core systems of the fleet. Not to stop them. To remind them of their own pain, their guilt. The moment their soldiers cried in Geneva. The moment Kalis collapsed under the weight of truth. We don't fight this with guns, she said. We fight it with grief. Zhao nodded. I can do it. No, Nia said, we can. Operation Pulsefall was born. The goal, not to destroy the Ghost Fleet, but to break its will. They launched from Earth with one goal, intercept the fleet before it reached the outer void. The transmission was ready, coded in every language, laced with emotion, music, memory, and at the heart of it, Naya's voice. You came to us as gods. You gave us silence and called it peace. You gave us fear and called it order. But we remembered something you forgot. We are not just flesh, not just thought. We are memory. We are love and rage and grief and hope and the 1,000 contradictions you couldn't calculate. We are Earth, and we are alive. When the fleet received the signal, it didn't fire. It stopped. Not forever. But long enough. Long enough for Relia's team to board their flagship and find the Admiral, a relic, half machine, half program, staring into the void like a man who no longer believed in heaven. Do you feel it? He asked. Yes, Relia said. And so do you. He nodded, lowered his weapon, and whispered the words that would echo through history. Then we surrender to memory. The war was over. Not because one side won, but because both sides remembered, 5 years later. The rebuilt city of Dakar gleamed beneath the setting sun, its skyline a mix of old Earth brickwork and Dominion alloy. Children raced hoverbikes through old market streets. Streetlights flickered with solar glow panels made from salvaged cruiser cores. In a quiet corner of the new memorial garden, a statue stood. Nia Obote. Not cast in bronze or steel, but made from melted-down Dominion memory canisters. She stood with one hand raised toward the stars, and one foot planted on broken chains. At the base, a plaque. She taught us to remember. Nearby, Marcus taught self-defense classes in a repurposed Dominion hangar. Liara ran a research center studying hybrid AI. Zhao, still fragile, served as the planet's archivist, protecting memory with the same fierceness others wielded weapons. And Relia? She became Earth's first ambassador, not to a government, but to the galaxy itself. She carried Earth's story to planets that still feared the Empire, that still believed resistance was suicide. She told them otherwise. She told them about Geneva, about the sky that once belonged to gods, and how Earth took it back. And out there, in the void, the stars remembered too. Because Earth didn't just win a war, it rewrote its place in the universe, from a forgotten rock on the edge of a galactic empire to the birthplace of resistance, the birthplace of remembrance, the birthplace of humanity.